you the Keymaster? Welcome back to another episode of Desk Talks. I am Chase, and we have Rob here with us today. We're so glad that you are here to join us, and we're not going to waste your time. We're going to kick it right in, keep it minimally professional. We're not even going to wind it up. Today, we are going to talk about touchy subject. We're going to talk about what's happening with the Department of Education right now. Yeah. And I realize that a lot of people, this is going to get you right in your feels on both sides of the house here. Just understand, we're going to try to pitch it to you as straight down the middle and as we see it, actual, and try to keep all the other stuff out of it. But if that's where you need to go, drop it in the comments. Just understand that if we'll respond to it, but we're not going to argue, right, on political stuff here. That's not what we're here for. Anyway, with that being said, that disclaimer being said, President Trump last week signed into order to effectively start shutting down or eliminating as many positions and shutting down the Department of Education. And Linda McMahon is now our Secretary of Education. She was actually voted in on both sides of the House. With that being said, wow, it has been a whirlwind already. Woo!
It has been, and I know from what I've read and what I've heard, because I'm finding that not everybody watches the news or reads the news. My brother and the current host of Desk Talks told me you need to get out of your bubble and start reading the news, and so I did. And so everything that we're going to say here is taken from different news and media outlets and watching the news and discerning information, reading the regulations on the Department of Education website, so on and so forth. So we are a little bit informed, but I love the straight up WWE cage match approach that Miss McMahon is bringing to the Department of Education. And I find the irony in that as well.
Hey, look.
You like that?
I do, and I want to comment on that, dude. Like, it's so appropriate because she really is. Like, she did a phenomenal job. And whether you like WWE or Raw or any of the other representation or positions of companies that Linda McMahon has worked for, but she has run successful business models. Whether you enjoy it or not, this woman is incredibly gifted at what she does. She is very gifted. I'm not saying that I like her personally. I don't know enough about her to make that decision. What I do know is that she is, as a businesswoman, is absolutely fantastic. And I love the fact that she is there.
Yeah,
WWE cage match style, off the top ropes.
That's right. I love it. But I will say, before we really dig into it and pick it apart, there's been so much sensationalism around this current administration shutting down Department of Education. And I think we need to reframe that a bit. And it's not that they're shutting down Department of Education. Department of Education is going to be there. It is an internal reorganization that's happening right now in Department of Education. You can see they're shuffling the deck. They're pushing responsibility out to the various other departments, and they're allowing Department of Education to focus on what their original mission and intent was, which is to handle Title IV funding. That was their original intent, is to handle what we now call Title IV funding or federal funds. They're going back to their original scope. So whenever you pull back away from the thoughts and opinions of others, which I encourage everyone to do all the time, and really dig into it and look at it yourself, you can see that it's just a shuffle, which scares everyone. You've been through a company reorg. I've been through several iterations. I'm sure. And what do? You get nervous. You get nervous because our government is doing what every other organization, what you and I have done here at DES, our company. We look at where there's waste. What are the tasks and roles of everyone? What are the metrics? Is everyone hitting their milestones? Are they doing what we intended them to do when we brought them on? Right? So you have these They call them audits. Whenever I went through a reorg in my, where I worked previously, that was nerve wracking. You go into interviews, you're interviewing with the CEO essentially, giving a rundown of this is what I've done over the last 2 years. Here's my ROI for this organization. That's all they're doing. Whenever you extrapolate the data, that's all they're doing. Ignore my dog drinking water in the background.
I don't think anybody was paying attention to that until you brought
Good.
it.
No one can hear that. I can hear it. She drinks water. She drinks water like an elephant. It is wild.
So I appreciate that you are bringing us the facts, right? And every company, and I want to echo that, every company does a reorg. I've been part of a reorg, and whenever that company reorganized, they eliminated my position. And then they told us, well, you're welcome to reapply, right? Like at any time, at that point I was going, well, no, you just said I wasn't necessary, so I'm going to go away. But if you look at it, in the federal government is a business as well, right? But they're supposed to be a non-for-profit. They are not supposed to make profit. So if you look at it in that terms, right, there's a lot of things that need to be reorged in there. And some things programs get flushed down. I mean, good ones and bad ones. The same thing that I had a conversation. My wife and I like to think I'm moderate right-leaning in my political views. My wife is moderate left-leaning, right? But we have this same argument all the time about those programs. And my argument is that, whenever you are doing surgery, right, you have to take a bit of the good tissue to cut out the bad. And I feel like that's part of what we're doing right now, is that our government's kind of bloated. And you're seeing us having to cut away, and some of that good gets caught up in the bad. But hopefully we can reattach that good tissue and have good, healthy growth out of it. Some of the stuff that we're seeing, veterans benefits have not been touched at all as far as Title IV, as far as you and I know. Veterans benefits have not been touched at all. In fact, they've been gone up.
Increased.
Like they've been absolutely excellent. That is our target audience here. We're talking about higher ed, veterans in higher ed and higher education itself. You're not seeing student loans, going away. In fact, they shifted that, underneath another branch of service. And I can't remember off the top of my head which that was, which I should have that up here.
I think it's a small business administration.
Small business. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. And then I know that special education, which is near and dear to my heart, special education ADA requirements have now, funding has now fallen underneath health and services, which is going to fall underneath, Bobby Kennedy, which is, is still going to get funded. I want to draw light to that those things are still being funded. They're just being shifted and reorganized, and the money's going through a different route. That does not mean that you're not going to get funded. Does that mean that there's going to be ups and downs, especially to those, in our critical need area? Maybe, we're going to have a little bit of a rough patch, but that's true with anything that you do in life whenever you transition. I encourage all of us just to stay positive, right? And seek the opportunities.
Yes. And that was well said. And you made the promise that we would stay right in the middle here. I have thoughts and opinions, but why don't you join us if you really want to know how we feel? Join us over on our other podcast, which can be found on Rumble exclusively. So you can check that out there, because we'll continue this conversation over there. But for our purposes here at Desk Talks, I think you did a great job of couching that, man. It's a big reshuffle. There will be pain, inside of it. And some people will feel that. It will feel unfair for a little while. But again, if you put a name to something and you look at it through a different lens, we've all been through this to a degree. And maybe there's 18-year-olds out there listening to this, and they're just getting to voting age, and maybe they haven't had a career yet. Think of it like you're reshuffling your classroom seating assignment in elementary school. It may not be exactly where you wanted to sit originally. It may have been tough to make new friends, but I guarantee, to a degree, it worked out in the end. You're just
That
fine.
is breaking it down Barney style for us, absolutely to the T. I mean, good gosh, man. You can't get more Barney than that. Like, there's growing pains. You're going to have to get used to it, right? But you also have to seek the opportunities in those growing pains. And that's what here at Dynamic Educational Solutions we're all about. On the other side of our house, we try to help everybody, leverage those opportunities as they come about. Keep it up on your news there. I mean, a lot of those things are being shuffled. If you're a business that is being impacted by these things, I encourage you to go and pay attention to where those things are being shuffled as well.
Now, and I would say if you're running a business out there, if you're a part of an organization and you're curious how Department of Education, all these changes are going to impact you, reach out. We're happy to just have a conversation with you because I think we have a unique pulse on the situation. Having some very good, professional and personal relationships with individuals who have their ear to the ground on that. And so we may be able to shed a little bit of light on that situation. But it's interesting. This is interesting to see, man. It's a great time. It's a great time to be here.
It is a great time to be here. Keep your ears open. You never know what's going to happen next. It's exciting. There's always opportunity, and I think we're going to see more opportunity and more growth than I think we're going to see loss here.
Absolutely.
So stay positive, my friends.
On that note, we're already seeing growth. We're already seeing the changing landscape. And I think we mentioned it last week, but I'll reiterate it here again. You have Harvard Business School who has publicly come out and said, for individuals, and I hope I'm right on this, I'm going to fact check myself, but if you are a first generation college student and your family makes collectively under $200,000, your tuition is free if you go
right, and
now. You still got to get in.
That's taxable income, right?
Yeah, you still got to get in. So don't get that twisted, because I know I've seen some news articles about people getting upset. Well, they offer free tuition, but they don't let me in. Baby, you still have to have the grades. You still got to meet the standard.
You still got to meet the standard.
Yeah. There's still a standard there that you have to meet, but that model it's being adopted across higher education, and it was something that wasn't swept under the rug by any means, but it's not something that most institutions come out and publicly say. Federally, they report on the number of students who are subsidized, their tuition is subsidized by the institution. So all that information is there. This is something that's been happening for as long as I know, that institutions, you have scholarships, grants, what have you, but they're taking it a step further now and making that public. That way people can see that. Go figure, Harvard's really kind of pioneering that price point clarity, which I appreciate.
I appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
That was something. I appreciate you bringing that up. There is opportunity there, and you're seeing the
Absolutely.
educational landscape starting to change.
Mm-hmm.
I know through meetings that you and I have with different partners, I mean, there's they're seeing that landscape change as well. They're trying to meet the students where they are now. Yeah. They're seeing the need to upskill and to retrain. We, in the middle of our careers, are going to have to upskill and retrain to keep
Always.
up. We echo it almost every time that we get on this podcast. It is that important. You've got to constantly be upskilling and retraining. Does that, and I think that's a misnomer, because I've had a lot of people ask, say things to me personally, like, well, I don't have the money to go do that, to go take those classes. And I just smile at them and said, who's telling you to take a class? Right? Like, you're upskilling and retraining. If you're able to take a class, absolutely go take that class.
Yep.
Right? But you have to be able to invest in yourself. And I think that's what we talk about here on DES the most. And that's what I appreciate, our company focusing on, which is it's self-improvement, guys. You've got to be willing to get on YouTube, Khan Academy, right? I mean, I'm trying to think of all the things that I've used, kind of to get myself ready as a small business owner
Yes.
myself, as a startup and small business owner myself. Like I was not prepared whenever I took that leap. But I got caught up. I stayed up late. I was willing to put in those rough hours, those blood, sweat, and tears. And that's what we're all going to have to do to continue to stay up in this ever-changing landscape as technology is advancing so quickly and our landscape for higher education and the business world is changing.
You made a really good point, and I'm going to take a hard right turn on you because I think this is something that we should talk about just a little bit. You know, we said it last week and the week before that if you aren't constantly upskilling and reskilling yourself, you're going to be left behind. And you brought up a good point, Chase, that that's not our way of saying you need to go out and spend thousands of dollars to go back to school. That's not what we're saying. You can get on LinkedIn Learning. You can get on Google Search. You can jump into Microsoft. Microsoft has their own suite of free. It's free learning for you. But, you know, I've seen that we are in a space, we're not in financial crisis yet as a nation, right? But we're almost on the precipice of that. And I wasn't a social media person, but the second we started DES, I had to become a social media person. And so, you know, by doing so, I see a lot of things.
I tried to get out, but they just pulling me back.
I'm telling you, man, they have that algorithm dialed in now. But I've been watching a lot of videos, and I see, you know, we have chickens here. My eggs are free to me. You know, but you can see the cost of eggs, milk, bread, our staples, right? Our staples, the price is only getting higher. And people continue to say things like, well, the cost of food is getting higher, but we're not getting paid more. And, you know, I was in that camp for a long time, for years. And then I got into real, true middle management outside of the military. And then I got into executive management. And now you and I own a company together. And so I view it from a different lens. So I'm going to challenge that and say, what are you doing to make yourself more marketable to where you deserve and can command a higher salary? If you are banking on, well, I have 20 years of experience and an undergraduate degree from 1999, but nothing else outside of that, I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice. You have to make yourself marketable, and you do that by taking these mini certificates, go back to school, using employment benefits if you have them. You know, there's so many different ways to crack the nut here.
Rob, I'm going to take this little swing further. You and I, whenever we started to open up this company, and even before we started this podcast, our mindset was see a need, fill a need.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? That's been like in service to others, right?
Yes.
And I look at that now, and my wife and I talk about this all the time. We don't have, you know, we live in a neighborhood, right? But what can we do to be a little bit more self-reliant? I think, you know, at the end of the day, I think that's what we're looking at, a little bit of self-reliancy, and that's okay. You know, if these farmers got hit and everybody got hit with this, but you know, the bird flu epidemic that wiped out our eggs. Like, guys, you got to give it time. Time heals all things. You know, there's bumps and there's ups and downs. It increases the prices. But, you know, just because it's a large faceless corporation that you're buying your eggs from that you get upset with, understand. And Rob, I think you were trying to say this. I'm going to couch it in a different way. As small business owners, you know, who have employees, right? Like, just because the cost of eggs goes up doesn't mean that my cost went down, right? Like, I can't afford to keep up with the price of eggs and your demand, because what happens when the price of eggs go down? Does that mean I get to pay you less again? I mean, you know, let's reframe this, guys. Everybody needs to eat, right? And you are paid in proportion to the problems that you solve.
Well, yes. You're absolutely
retool,
right.
Upskill, and solve bigger problems. Well, if you want more eggs, you know, more than 12 eggs, more than a dozen eggs, next time you go to the grocery store, we need to upskill, retool, and we need to solve bigger problems.
Yes,
right?
and you brought up a good point, being self-reliant. We've had this conversation personally about the financial aspect of things. And, that's pushed people to be more self-reliant. We didn't have eggs here. Or we didn't have chickens here. We got chickens, now we have eggs. Well, now we have to pay feed bill for those chickens. I have to maintain structure. I have to maintain bedding, chicken netting, all the things that go inside of it, right? So for a dozen eggs, some people see it as free. No, I pay probably 6 times more than you pay. Now, you go back to self-reliancy. We have an abundance. So take donations. I'm not going to get myself in trouble. We take donations for eggs that are left over that we wouldn't be able to eat, that would go bad. And that offsets the cost. That's what I'm talking about. Whenever you want to get paid more, what are you doing for yourself to achieve that goal? That's like someone showing up to work, doing everything within their job description and nothing more, nothing less, and then coming to their boss and saying, I deserve a $20,000 raise.
Or saying, if you're hourly, let's put this back. If you are coming in and doing exactly the job that I hired you for, right, a year ago, and you're doing nothing more, nothing less, you have not tried to advance yourself, you have not tried to learn another position, take on additional duties and responsibilities, but yet you think that I'm going to give you a raise. Like, Big Dog, I can tell you this, in that review, I'm going to tell you, hey, great job. Thank you so much for showing up every day and doing your job. You are an excellent employee. You are a model employee. I appreciate everything that you do here, right? But whenever you ask me for that raise, I'm going to look at you and go, but why?
Well, what are you doing? You have to go above and beyond.
What problems are you solving? What additional problems are you solving that you need to be compensated for?
Well, and here's your 3.5 COLA. That's what COLA's for. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You were building to it, I feel like
I was building to it.
Go back. Exactly go right. back. Just go back and continue what you were saying. I'm so sorry.
No, you got it. You nail on head, man. That's exactly what it is. If you want to look at higher education through the eyes of veterans and small business owners, which is kind of what you come here for, we hope, because that's what we offer you. It's an opinion piece, and our opinion is that you get paid by the problems that you solve, and you can only solve bigger problems by upskilling and continue to retool yourself by widening those berths. Well, Rob gave you some excellent examples of ways that of very quick, free, lead your own path examples. If you would like some more, DM us, right? Send us a direct message. Send us an email at info@dynamiceducationalsolutions.org.
Yeah, man. Tear me up in the comments.
Send us a comment on whatever social media this is coming to you from. Top, bottom, left, right, don't care. Wherever it's coming at you from.
Yeah.
leave us a message, dude. We'd love to get in contact with you and help you navigate that space, because we are better when we do it together, right? So
well said. Well said. And we're moving away from a model that that we've lived in for the past 15, 20 years as a nation, and that's the truth. We're moving back into big time capitalism, which means big time self-reliance. You're in charge of you. If you're willing to take the chance and step out and do things, you can do something great, or you could fall flat on your face. But this relative, and I say this very lightly, but this, I can't think of a better term, but the entitlement of I deserve X because of I. That doesn't exist. That's not going to exist any longer. And if I'm the first one to tell you, I'm sorry, I'm going to break it to you this way, but it's time to get with it. It's time to get with it.
This was supposed to be an uplifting.
It is uplifting. I'm trying to empower you people.
Hey, Unc, I'm going to use common vernacular that I was taught. Hey, Unc.
Yeah, don't do that. This isn't Club Shay Shay. Shout out. Love it. Love that, dude. Have you seen that? Club Shay Shay podcast? That's
what I'm trying to do.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
You're too heavy right now, man. You're coming in a little heavy with that hand.
Hold on. Let's go back 2 minutes. I am so proud of you. All of you are doing such a great job at whatever it is you're doing, and I'm so thankful that you were here. Buddy Christ style. Better? Uplifting.
All right, if you made it this far in the episode, Mom, thank you so much for being here. We're sorry for if you jumped off before this, you missed a great ending to our podcast here. Hey, come back next week. We got something new. We got something fresh for you. So come back.
Tell them about it. Tell them who we have coming on next week.
How about you tell them who we got coming
Okay,
on
my
next
bad.
week? Because
It's
I
not
will
next
be
week.
traveling. I am not going to be here. Rob is going to be hosting next week's podcast.
I sure am. And it's going to be great. We have the CEO of the Catalyst program, which is a military transition program out of the state of Indiana. Daniel Hance, he'll be on here with me next week. We're going to talk a little bit about his program, and what it does for not only military service members, but also civilians. But more importantly, we're going to talk about his journey and what life is really like whenever you try and live it to serve other people, the good, the bad, the ugly inside of that. Not that we are shining examples, but I think it'll be a really good conversation.
So what I'm hearing you say is you're going to have a real conversation next week with a
Sure am.
entrepreneur who is also a veteran, who is going to share his triumphs and tribulations
Which is the more important thing.
Being a veteran. Well,
Yes.
Of course it is, because we're all here to, if you're here on this podcast and you're not constantly working to better yourself, then I refer you over to another one. You can find it on Rumble. That's not this podcast. So until next week, same time, same channel. We love to see you there. Make sure you hit that like, share, subscribe, y'all.
Skadoodles.